this section I'd like to show you a few of my favorite guard passes that we'd use in sport fighting, and then I'm going to look at breaking those from a real fighting point of view. It's really important to understand that just because we do grappling or we do sport fighting, it doesn't mean that everything can be translated directly into a more of a real life kind of scenario. So the first one I call the Dukes of Hazzard pass. And so this one requires me to have a little bit more space on my opponent. I'm going to step up so that my knee is up, my foot is flat on the ground. I'm going to place my hand quite significantly below his belt line, and the reason for that I'll talk about shortly, but I'm going to just place it over here. I'm going to push my head back, I'm going to slide my knee across, so I'm creating with my body a big open space here to be able to go over. I'm sliding over the top here and transitioning through to controlling him on the side. One more time on this side. So my foot comes up, I place my hand below his belt line. My head goes back, my body opens up right there. I'm sliding over the top and passing right through there. Again, I need a little bit of space here for my leg. My heel is on the ground. I place my hand on the ground. My head goes back. I'm going to slide forward right here, putting my whole body over the top of it. Slide over the top and control after that point. The reason we need to put that hand below the belt here is to try and stop me from being able to work in the space. That's beyond my normal reach to be able to do things. So if I'm going in here for any work over here, it's too far away from me to be able to work in this way here. So if you do that guard pass here, so you're sliding in here, sliding across here, so you want to get yourself body through here and pass in here, I can make that work. Cool. If it goes higher than that, so above my belt line, that gives me a lot more space to work with. It's much easier now for me to come through and attack that. It's also much easier if he goes and sets up that slide in here, for me to get my elbow hooks into it and start working towards the back in that direction there. So the objective for that Dukes of Hazzard pass is to make sure that your hand is well below here so that I can't get under and work that. He gets in here, he leans back in here to work that across, and that stops me from being able to do stuff. And if I do try and sit in here, he's got plenty of space to still be able to crush that pass. In this one here, I'm going to bring my leg out and around. I'm going to change my center to be focusing on his shoulder, and I'm effectively crushing his leg close to him and staying outside of that strength zone. It's really, really important that I bring myself forward and change my angle here, and I'll show you why shortly. This hand here is going to reach underneath. I'm going to peel out his foot, place it in front of my foot. I'm going to place my body behind his hip, drive forward, drive through, and I pass the leg there. I'm crushing this foot in, and I'm making the space over here. So you can see the foot currently is trapped inside my body underneath here. So I'm going to reach under, and I'm going to grab his foot, and I'm just going to peel it in front of my own leg. Okay, so I'm holding onto this foot, and I'm just moving it out of the way. I'm then just going to move my body, and I'm just going to slide my body through and turn his hips in this direction. Coming out, going in, reaching through, grabbing a hold of his foot, pushing it through, and then driving across. One of the common mistakes here, once you get to this point over here, is to use a big spacey arm to try and push things in here, and that just sets him up to be able to defend from this point here. So I take away all that space, I place my body behind it, and I slice myself like a wedge to turn that hip over and control them in that way. And the third guard pass that I use all the time in a grappling context, I'm going to take my arms, I'm going to clamp his knees together. I'm going to switch to one side, my hand comes up. I'm going to walk backwards. As I walk backwards, it extends his legs and takes away his ability to use them against me. I move across his legs here, and then I slide up and pass the guard that way. Clamp those knees together, switch to one hand. I'm placing this hand up. I walk backwards and straighten his legs. I move over one side and I slide up and control him from there. So those three guard passes that I just showed are my bread and butter when it's a sporting kind of grappling guard pass kind of situation. But if it's a real fight and we get ourselves into this situation, he no longer plays by my rules. He now has his own set of rules that he will play under, and that is basically to hurt me or to try and stop me from doing things. Each of these three guard passes we're now going to have a look at from that context there. So again, I'm in this position over here. I'm going to put my knee in. Now, if I don't care about his welfare, my knee is nice and close to his groin right now. So I can, instead of being nice and going over his leg, I can do the Dukes of Hazzard pass directly over the top of his groin. I won't show that. His family may not be complete, but that's available to me right here. I can move to the side and do exactly the same thing. If he's now trying to hurt me, I'm moving my head far away when I do this. My hand goes on the ground in here. I come through. All this stuff is defending. I'm sliding across, and at this point here, I'm still on top of him, and I can still hurt him. So this guard pass is one that can translate from a sporting arena to a real fighting arena relatively easily. I'll show it to you one more time. Try and put a bit more resistance in for me. Yeah. So here we go, up in this position here. So there it is there. Here's my hand. I'm sliding over, and there I am, and I can control him nicely. Similarly, if we look at that second guard pass, that one was, I reached around, I pressure. Again, I'm keeping my head far away from him. I'm coming under. I'm going to grab that foot. I'm sliding here, and as I'm going in here, I'm passing that knee over here. Okay, so let's have a look at that from a bit more of a fighting perspective. So here we go, in this position here. He's fighting, he's fighting, he's fighting, he's fighting, and I'm still over the top of him, and I'm still able to make this work in a more of a fighting kind of environment. So that brings us to my third bread and butter guard pass, which is the one with the knee clamp. Now, often if I'm coming in and I'm hitting, he'll be using his knees to try and keep me away. And that looks to me, because I've done this in grappling so many times, this looks like a really good opportunity to clamp his knees together and then use that guard pass there. So I clamp my arms together. At this point, I've just taken both my arms away from defending myself, and I've put my head really, really close to him for him to hurt me. But let's say I get away with that, and I switch to one hand, and I put this hand up here to protect me. With this one hand now, I have to try and stop him from hurting me. So as he's coming in here, he can grab that arm, and he can hurt me. Okay? But let's say I get away with that, and I move backwards in this position over here. At this point over here, he now gets access to the back of my head. He can hurt me really, really badly. As I move over in here, he can often use the striking and basically break that entire guard pass. So even though in grappling, that's a really, really effective technique, when it actually comes to fighting, that technique makes me incredibly vulnerable. Even though this works really well in grappling, I can't use it if I'm really fighting. And if I rely on this guard pass, you fight the way you train, and if I'm always using this guard pass, I can get myself into a lot of trouble if I do this against somebody who actually wants to hurt me. But the actual shape itself is still a really valuable one. If I can clamp those knees together and then control his legs in that way, it's still a really valuable way of trying to deal with his legs. And so one way that I found that I quite like is to still keep that knee clamp going, but not use my arms to be able to do it. And this is what that looks like. I'm going to come through and I'm going to put my foot up on one side, and I'm going to reach through and place it underneath his buttocks on the other side, and we'll get a reverse angle on that shortly. And then I'm going to clamp it with both my knees together here. Okay? Normally at this point here, I'm probably going to hold on to one of his legs. So I'm still clamping his knees together, but now I'm clamping his knees together with my legs. I can then turn my body over using that same shape to be able to control him, and then I can turn and own him from there. So clamping those knees together is really effective, but I just can't use my arms to do it. So my leg's going to come up and I'm going to tuck that foot underneath his bum on the other side. I'm going to sit back and now I'm going to clamp his knees together with my legs instead of using my arms. Usually I'd have to hold on to him in this position over here a little bit, and then I'm just going to roll him over right there, put myself into a good place here, and from here I can turn and I've got good access to his back right there. So I'm still using the same principle of controlling him by clamping his knees together, but I'm taking myself out of danger doing this.